What if I told you what you are watching right now is gaming Chromebook material? This is content that is on a gaming Chromebook. First thought that I would say, if someone told me this and showed me this, is I'd call them crazy. Chromebooks, at least all my research and everything I found, are not capable of this level of performance. So that raises some questions then. How in the world am I playing such high-level games at such high-level performance on a Chromebook? In order to explain how we got to this point, we have to go back about a month ago. About a month ago, I made a video talking, more like exposing, but talking about some videos, or actually ads, that Google had put out claiming that their Chromebooks were good gaming machines and that you should switch from your Windows gaming machine to a Chromebook to play your games. Now there's a lot of things that are wrong with that, and we can go on. Actually, I did for an entire video about that. But for today, we're going to talk about an ultimate gaming Chromebook that takes advantage of Chrome's OS to play games. And in that video about talking about the ads, and actually the follow-up video explaining and playing games, because some haters thought that you could game on a Chromebook, that in those follow-up videos, I explained that it wasn't the fact that Debian, or more like Chromium OS, which is what Google uses to make their Chrome OS, has any problems. It's a standard version of Linux, and as usual, Linux is pretty well optimized and does a good job of actually playing games. But my problem really lied with the hardware that was found in the machines. It was just not capable and lacking. And this is standard for any of the Chromebooks I've been able to find. There are not that I've been able to find, dedicated graphics in any Chromebooks. So today I wanted to fix that. We have one of the most Frankenstein Chromebooks you will ever see that is capable of gaming. So if you're ready, I'm going to show you this sucker. Now, the first thought you're probably thinking is, Jay, that's not a Chromebook. There's so many things wrong with this statement. It's not a Chromebook, it's a desktop. And to that I would reply, yes, but please wait till the end of this video because I'm going to show you just how this is 10 times better than a Chromebook, and it runs Chrome OS. It costs just as much as Chromebooks, and it is by far superior in every aspect. So now that you know what this is, it's a desktop. It's a Frankenstein Chromebox is what they're supposedly called. I want to show you some gameplay of what a Chromebox or Chromebook is capable of. Now, as I show you some clips of some gameplay, I just want to point out the fact that this machine costs actually less than a majority of the current Chromebooks on the market. If Google wants to advertise Chromebooks as being capable gaming machines, they need to go as far as at least to put a dedicated graphics card in them. And for $300, I just want to point out some of these specs real quick because these are 10 times better than any Chromebook you can find on the market. We're talking about an 8-core, 16-thread Intel Xeon processor running the X79 chipset with its accompanying motherboard. I have 64 gigabytes of DDR3 ECC registered memory in this motherboard as well, included with a 500 gigabyte hard drive and a 1050 Ti. This machine outperforms any Chromebook currently on the market or previously on the market in terms of every aspect of gaming. That means that if Google really wanted to say that they have Google Chromebooks that are capable for gaming, this is a how-to guide on how you should do so. This gaming machine has every aspect of Google's Chrome OS. Now, a lot of questions you're also thinking is, this isn't really Chrome OS. There's a lot of other, there's a lot of things you could be doing instead of putting Chrome OS on here. And this is actually Chrome OS. So first, I have to explain a little bit about Chrome OS if you're unfamiliar. Chrome OS is based on Chromium OS, which is an open source version of Debian. Now, all of those are forms of Linux, and if you're unfamiliar with Linux and you're watching this channel, I'll explain it real quick. I was gonna say some other things, but Linux is just an open source operating system that a lot of people like and has a little less support software side, but that's pretty much just simply what Linux is. And I know someone's gonna go in the comments and go rattle it out. Just for the record, I do use Linux, so I have nothing against it. But Linux itself is actually really good for gaming. Why? Well, because it's highly optimized, and usually most distributions are open source, and therefore there are a lot more patches that you would normally find in Windows, and so it's a little bit more efficient. Therefore, you get more performance from the same hardware. So in those videos in which I criticized Google for their way that they had advertised and misled a little bit in their ads, I criticized the hardware on the machine rather than the operating system for being the main fault in why it couldn't game. Now, I was unfamiliar with some of the Linux capabilities and some of the things, but still the main point stands that the hardware was a limiting factor. So I set out to fix that, and so I set a couple bars for me to hit. First off, it had to be cheap or cheaper than a Google Chromebook. And why? Well, that's just because you can't compare a $1,000 gaming computer to a $300, $400, $500 Chromebook, because that's just not fair. So in this video, we're talking about a $300 gaming machine that I Frankenstein into a Chromebook. So Chrome's OS has those three kind of different parts. So you have the base Debian, you have the Chromium OS, which is open source Debian, and then Chrome OS, which is Google's lockdown version of Chromium. So the Debian you can download, anyone can download Debian and put it on any machine, you're fine. Chromium OS you can actually download from a website called Cloud Ready Neverwhere, or Neverwhere Cloud Ready, and they basically make an open source version that is almost identical to Chrome OS, only limiting factor of course being that you don't have access to the Play Store. So it's not really a full-fledged Chrome OS gaming machine yet. You have to go even a step farther to Chrome OS. Now, Google doesn't like you taking their proprietary operating system and putting it on a machine. So for Google that's watching this, I took the Chromium OS and put it on the gaming machine. But now that Google's clicked away, let's talk about some things that Chromium or Chrome OS is actually capable of doing. So there is a questionably large following of people on the internet, YouTube videos explaining how you can actually get Chrome OS, the Google version, onto a gaming machine. You can go through and do that a couple ways, but one of the main ways actually is to go through and install Linux Mint and then install Chrome OS using the recovery image to the computer and get it to boot into Chrome OS with a Chromebox. There are some problems with that. First off, the hardware that you're seeing in this machine, at least when we've gone over it, ends up being older and also no chance of ever being included in any Chromebook. The hardware that I'm including is a cheap Intel Xeon and 64 gigabytes of ECC registered memory, both of which have never been in any Chromebook, as well as a dedicated graphics card. So at this point, there's a lot of questions to ask. You know, what in the world, what image do you even use? Because each version of Google Chrome's Chrome OS is designed specifically for a machine with an Intel Atom processor, an ARM processor, or perhaps an i3 or i5 processor. So none of those are really end up matching what we've kind of selected for our hardware. So I had to end up going through the one step up and actually switching back over to Chromium OS using Never Ready's version. Now, that's not to limit the factor. Instead, this is still Google's Chrome OS. The only difference is I don't have access to the Play Store, and really the Play Store wasn't anything on there that I need anyway for gaming. So that being said, if you wanted to go through and make yourself a Chromebook like we've done today, you wouldn't have any issue. The main reason though is I was trying to put this on an Intel Xeon, 64 gigs of RAM, and a 1050 Ti. Now, I'm sure the graphics card was not the limiting factor, and it was definitely the processor, because a 2011 Intel Xeon, there's nothing that was ever made for Chromium or Chrome OS with that, so I wouldn't expect that to be supported anyway. So that being said, the content you're seeing is slightly different OS, but it's still the same thing. So, as I said, the gameplay here is just wonderful gameplay. Now, is this really a Chromebook? It's running Chrome OS, and for anybody out there that was really questioning about getting a Chromebook, this is cheaper, and if you don't need the portability, then this by all means is a great option. Now, for those of you that need the portability, this is also something you can do with any machine. If Chrome OS is something that you really want, not saying it'd be for me, but if it was something you'd want, there's definitely ways that you can get Chrome OS running on pretty much any machine. The only concerns would be getting full support out of your graphics card, and the driver support may be limited if you got a real Chrome OS version. Now, if you went to the Chromium OS option, which CloudReady Neverwhere makes, and they support pretty much current laptops, you actually could probably get full support without a problem. You just have to try for both.